Welcome to Main Street Minds with your host, Amish Munshi. This is where industry leaders and seasoned pros share their secrets to success beyond limits. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to Main Street Minds. Today we have a very special guest, Reed, over here from a beautiful city, Nashville. I love Nashville because of what potential it has, right? It will the manufacturing when it went south, a lot of that went to Nashville. And being a car enthusiastic at heart, I have been to Nashville many times, not for the music, but just to tour the factories of automobiles. And I used to just drive around outside. Somebody would just call me crazy for that, right? But without any further delay, let's open up the floor. Let's hear more about Reed and Nashville. I'm really excited to learn more because I want to come back and enjoy all the good food and go back to the automobile manufacturing plants.
Thanks, Amish. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be invited and an honor. So appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Reed. So tell us more about how you got started in real estate. What brought you to being a realtor?
Yeah. Well, I was working with a pretty intensive summer job through college, and it was door-to-door sales.
Okay.
It was a really good training ground for me. But at the end of doing that for 5 years, I realized that I really loved working with people
Mm-hmm.
and I really loved the sales process. What I didn't really like was that churn and burn, no means next type of cutthroat sales.
Yeah.
Um, I was good at it, but I really didn't like that type of
Mm-hmm.
process. So when I had finished doing that, I'd interviewed a bunch of guys here in Nashville that were really successful at what they've done. These guys were bankers, mortgages, insurance, real estate. Some people tried to recruit me. Some people didn't want me to get in the industry at all. And I'd actually thought I was going to start up a roofing franchise
Mm-hmm.
and bring it up from Chattanooga, which is a little small city southeast of Nashville, which is growing quite quickly, and then bring that up and work in Nashville. And
Yeah.
I was sitting down with the dean of the business school at Lipscomb. His name's Turney Stevens. And Turney started talking to me about real estate. And he was like, Reed, do you know how much it costs to buy $100,000 in stock? And me not really knowing much, being a young college graduate, I was like, I don't know, maybe with commissions, it's like 102 or something like that. And he's like, no, $100,000, keep it simple. How much is it to buy $100,000 house? And I was like, I don't know, 100,000. And he says, no, it's 20% and then someone else pays for it. And at
Yeah.
that moment, that was my like light bulb. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I was like, I think I might want to do that. And if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do that, why don't I help my friends do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so a week later, I get called by one of my good friends, Kyle Feltz, who's the owner of Bradford Real Estate in Nashville. And he said, hey, we're starting up a property management company. We want you to come work for us.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really great opportunity for a young guy to get into the business, not be strictly focused on sales, but learning a lot of the investment world of
Mm-hmm.
picking out rentals, um, managing them. I learned pretty quickly like which properties I want to have and which ones I don't want to have or manage.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really good introduction to real estate. So I did that for almost a year and then ended up going to the Olympics in Rio um,
Oh,
with a bunch of buddies. And
mhm.
I'd always had time, or I always had money, and then I never really had time because I was working. And they always had time, but they didn't have money. And so finally, everything kind of connected, and
Yeah.
we were gone for probably a little over I think around a month, maybe over a month. Um, and at that point, it just made sense for me to jump into real estate full time. So it was a really cool way to kind of get into the world of real estate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've always thought about it saying property management is actually a great way to get sellers as well because either they want to not deal with it anymore or they want to upgrade or downgrade. And I
Mhm.
think it might lead to a few transactions.
Yeah, it was really powerful for me because being in it, being so quick to go show. So it was a really easy introduction. I was coming off a very intensive sales role, And then
Mm-hmm.
I was opening a door and being like, do you like this? And yeah, I mean, I could just sleepwalk through it, but getting all that feedback from people, I really learned like what people would pay more for, what they wouldn't, like when stuff would move. Um, so it was a really great introduction to me. And then that has kind of helped guide my principles of how I've built my portfolio and obviously what I try to teach my clients.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So, are you currently also like investing as well, like having your own portfolio?
Yeah, I do. So right now I have 6 units, and then one of those units will turn into an additional six. So I guess almost 2 years ago, me and a partner put a piece of property under contract. We
Mm-hmm.
rezoned it and then closed on it. And we're set to build some Airbnbs here in Nashville, kind of close to the airport. So,
Yeah, really excited about that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great move. So, tell us more about what was the first deal like as a realtor? What was the first deal like? What was the experience?
Well, actually, my first deal, I was bird dogging for a builder. So I was door knocking out in a little part of I think it was East Nashville, and ended up getting it under contract, and then
Mm-hmm.
the builder bought it, and then we turned it into two homes. So it was a really cool opportunity for me to kind of learn that business.
Sweet.
And then really how I've built my business is a lot of networking and word of mouth. So I'm really fortunate. I don't buy leads. I don't do anything like that. We did just have a client from California come in and buy a rental property in Sylvan Park. We're under contract right now, and I'm in the process of kind of building my team.
Yeah.
So that's been a cool way to as I've kind of grown. But that was kind of my first deal was door knocking. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is amazing. So tell us more about what's happening in the market right now. Like, what are you observing? Is it increasing? Is it growing, shrinking?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of odd. Different price points are kind of doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our market is really holding fairly steady, but
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're seeing right now is just overall morale of real estate is just kind of hesitancy.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really interesting to hear, which I don't think will happen anytime soon, but they've taken away the 620 minimum credit score for conventional loans.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of talk of portable loans. There's talk of the 50-year mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of shaking the cage a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think
Yeah.
it could be really good for investors. You know,
Yeah.
after I build these and hopefully sell them, my goal would probably be to build a primary,
Mm-hmm.
live in it for 2 years, and then be exempt from the 500,000 of capital gains.
Yeah.
And if you look at a 30-year mortgage versus a 50-year mortgage, you're probably not really attacking the principal all that much
Yeah.
differently. And
Yeah.
so for my strategy, it could be really good if I know that I'm trying to exit and just take the tax-free cash.
Yeah.
The 50-year mortgage could be really good. Could also be really nice um, for investments, but also at the same time for the average consumer, if they're on average, I think in their home for about 12 years when we look at everybody, it's probably better for them to do a 30-year mortgage. But I guess it just kind of gives people an option, right? What are
Uh,
your thoughts?
Yeah, and the way I look at it is, like as an example, like the county where I live, the FHA limit, somebody with a 500 FICO with very little down payment could be buying a $1.2 million house. And that's the reason there is no $1.2 million houses in my market. Everything
Yeah.
is 1.2 and a higher. And just the county next door, next to us, the FHA limit is like 600, and houses max out at 800,000 over there. It's like just across, you cross the street and everything
Yeah.
changes. So lending or indirectly leads to a lot of things. And if even if somebody is going to do a 30-year mortgage, somebody else is able, like what people are able to afford is, let's say they are able to afford a $2,000 a month payment, they will automatically get a 50-year loan and get the higher price property, and that's where the entire market will just shift to that. So
Yeah.
even if somebody can afford a 30-year mortgage, they might be forced for a 50-year mortgage because the house they like now and what they qualify for is at a different level.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's so hard for young people, especially just to kind of get into their first deal.
Yeah,
Um, so I talk to a lot of people about trying to figure out ways to house hack or
yeah,
that's a sexy term for get roommates or maybe buy a multifamily and
yeah.
have a lot of that cost expensed by
Hmm.
the tenants. And that's how I was able to kind of grow and scale. And it's been it's been really helpful, although it does take some sacrifice up front, but it really sets you up for success.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, in what you mentioned is, I think in the market, you are seeing a little more stability right now, and it's not stagnating or it's not exploding, right? It's probably stable.
Yeah, last month we had, I think it's somewhere around 2,800 transactions that happened. And that's about similar to what happened last year. But what we're seeing is we're just seeing exceptionally more inventory.
Mm-hmm.
I believe last year we had about 10,000 units in our Nashville, Davidson local market.
Mm-hmm.
And then now this year we have about 14 or 15,000. So we're just seeing a lot more options. People are taking their time. I
Mm-hmm.
think the overall market is just, hey, the rates might get better later, which is kind of
Yeah,
um, can be really a challenging way to look at things. So the clients that are out going and buying things, they've got a lot of options, you know.
yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people remember back in 2020, 2021, where you're competing with 14 different offers. And, I think a lot of people were doing some pretty crazy stuff. During that time, I had a lot of clients buy new construction. And I was just like, let's just wait it out. By the time you close, you're going to have a ton of equity.
yeah,
But now those people are just a lot more hesitant to pull the trigger on something. They say, well, maybe we'll wait till next year. It might be better. Um, so, of course, the best time was, 20 years ago.
yeah.
But that's why it's just important to buy the right thing and be smart. But you do have a lot of power when you're buying because you can kind of take advantage of a good situation.
Yeah, I think right now is actually a good if especially for the first time home buyers, I think it's a great place. If they want, they can be a little bit choosy on like I want this neighborhood and I want this kind of a house. If the market if the rates are lower, market is more positive, then it's very difficult for a first time home buyer to actually buy something.
Hmm. Yeah. So something to point out to you, I know that you're a pretty big investor, right? You do some
Yeah,
lending and things like that.
yeah,
We've actually got a lot of opportunities in Nashville that will consider owner financing
yeah,
for 10% down. I've got one particular investor that he's got a lot of opportunities. So
hmm,
you come across guys that are looking for stuff. Nashville's probably one of the better places that you can look. Our real estate taxes are probably some of the lowest,
yeah,
yeah, especially with cost segregation coming back into play,
yeah,
accelerated depreciation. You can either write a very large tax bill to Uncle Sam, or you can
yeah,
go buy a nice piece of property.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
there's some pretty cool opportunities with that.
And Nashville has always been a really great place to invest. There are areas around US which are like which attract a lot of investors, but then they just attract investors. They don't attract end buyers, right? Versus
Mhm.
Nashville has like a really good population where people are actually buying. Like people are actually even buying. It should not only be an investor market. Like the reason why I like Nashville is it's a right blend, saying it's not just investors buying out property and renting it out. There are real people buying houses that might be the same house that the investor is buying.
Yeah, our economy is very, very healthy. We look at what's going on in Florida. I think that they're really hurting.
Yeah,
Nashville is really staying fairly strong.
yeah,
We're called the Athens of the South. We have a Parthenon, and a lot of people think that that's why it's called that. But it's actually called that because of how many college and universities we have. So we have a very educated population.
hmm,
We're a very pro-business type of environment. And so people are coming here, they're moving their headquarters to Nashville
yeah,
because they know Oracle and Amazon and all these big corporations that they can fill up their businesses relatively fast.
yeah.
And then
There's
there's
no
just
shortage. Like it's not like there's a shortage of housing or like there is space to build more.
Yeah, especially in Tennessee, there's cheap land, low taxes, very pro business.
Hmm.
So it's also very centrally located. If you're thinking about manufacturing and shipping,
Yeah.
we're almost smack dab in the middle. So it's going to be equal territory whether you're going to California or Maine or Florida. So.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit more about you. Like what do you like? I know you mentioned you just got married, so congratulations for that. But
Thank you.
that might be keeping you really nice and happy for immediate. But in addition
Hopefully
to
a long
that,
time, right? But
yeah, and in addition to all the excitement that's going on very recently, what else do you like to do?
well, I will say I work a lot. I've been very fortunate to have a great career with what I do. I've always tried to put people first,
Hmm.
and so work does take up a lot of times on weekends. And but I'm
Yeah,
very fortunate that I really just love people, and so I think some of my favorite things are really taking people to lunch and breakfast and going to happy hours. And
yeah.
I'm involved with a lot of philanthropic groups.
Hmm.
I just rolled off the board of the Kiwanis Club here locally in
Hmm.
Nashville. There's another group here called the Phoenix Club that does a
Hmm.
lot of really great stuff that I'm involved with.
Hmm.
I'm a big bourbon collector,
Cool.
and so I love to do tastings, and it's a fun way for actually me to interact with some people. So every so often I'll do events and kind of coach people and guide people. Um, and then I think everybody loves to travel, so that's kind of
Yeah.
easy. So it's a little bit more difficult with having a real estate business, but I'm now starting to build out teams. Just
Hmm.
hired a virtual assistant, and I've got a buyer's agent that's helping me. And so my most re I told my wife Christina, I was like, I'm probably not going to be able to just drop off the face of the earth. So I was like, let's do 2 weeks. So we ended up doing a week in Mexico, and then we did a week in Joshua Tree. So I just over in California, I guess. California is so big though. You guys get all of everything out there, but it was
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah, it's many people say hey, there is like everything that's involved, everything that you want. Like there's mountains and snow and everything, but yeah, it's still within somewhat reasonable driving distance. But you cannot cover California in one trip, even if it's a month long. It's just a very big state.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was beautiful. We love Joshua Tree. It's the first time I really felt like I was off the map because
Yeah,
you don't actually get cell service in there. So
no, there's a lot of places where we don't get cell service here.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
and,
it was
and
good.
and people like it, like saying, "Hey, we just want to disconnect," and kind of we end up creating this tech, and most of us are like, "How can we get rid of this?"
Yeah, it's important to not put too much on yourself because that way you can kind of think kind of freely, really. It
Yeah,
exposes you to different thought patterns, and so.
yeah. I believe you like to travel, and I would love to like whenever I'm in Nashville, I would love to like go out and try some bonbon bourbon as well.
Yeah, man, we got some great stuff. You come over to the house. I probably have maybe 200 bottles or something like
Oh
that.
wow, yeah.
So I think it's fun to kind of collect and share and do
Is
stuff.
there a one that you really cherish the most, or
Well, there's a lot of really good stuff. I'm a
yeah?
really big fan of Willet. But that's a terrible one to like because it's so expensive. You really got to savor those. Those are for good days. But it's kind of fun. You got a lot of different things about it that kind of makes it, especially when you do like a barrel pick, it's not like it's all the same, like it's Jack Daniels or Four
Yeah.
Roses. Like when you do something like that, each of those barrels is in a different place in a warehouse, maybe the
Mhm.
fourth floor or close to the first floor, close to the door or the back corner. And so they all have different flavor profiles. So it's kind of fun.
That is very interesting. I would love to like try out a few. Is there a like in wine tasting we go and like try out a few? Is there a concept similar to that?
Yeah, so it's probably very similar to wine.
Okay.
And I like wine, but you could put a $5,000 bottle versus a $10 bottle and probably wouldn't know much of a difference.
Yeah.
The nice thing with bourbon is it goes a lot further. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't, you wouldn't dare finish a bottle in the
Oh
same day.
no
So
way. No.
But
irrespective of it's not going to end well financially or socially.
yeah, probably not great. So,
Yeah.
but it's pretty fun, and what's really cool to see is in the South that's a really big thing. But we also have started to get some really really good food here. We just got three Michelin star restaurants here in Nashville.
Oh,
So
nice. Yeah, yeah. And in general, the food is like always so much better. It's, down south. I don't know why. Like I have Tex-Mex over here in California, and or Tex-Mex over there in Texas, as well as Mexican food over here. Should be similar, right? But no, it just tastes so much better down south.
well, it could be the butter. That
Yeah,
could be it.
yeah.
But it's certainly tasty.
Yeah, makes sense. So, as we come to the end of this episode, are there any other pieces of advice you would like to share with other agents who might become kind of start looking to make a career in real estate, or your buyers and sellers? Like any other pieces of advice you would like to share with them?
Yeah, I don't know. I would just always really encourage people to think long term
Mm-hmm.
about what real estate looks like and the power it is.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds counterintuitive, but a lot of times when people come to me and they say, "Hey, I think I want to sell this," my first question is like, I'm always like, "Are you sure? Like, would you like to run the numbers to see if it's something that you can keep?" So I
Mm-hmm.
actually think that that's better for people in the long run. Now, it doesn't always make sense. And I always tell people like, look, I get paid to help you sell stuff, but I really just think the power is long-term growth and compounding
Mm-hmm.
that it has. When you could get into something, you know, I mean, first time home for you guys is way higher. We're seeing like really good, nice average first time home buyers, probably six or 700,000. So
Mm-hmm.
it's way more affordable out here than in California. But if you can figure out ways that that property can kind of pay for itself and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be, shelling out every single time,
Yeah.
it's just a really cool opportunity. So everybody that's thinking about getting into real estate, I would really encourage you.
Yeah.
Um, and if you've, um, you know, have investors that are looking for stuff, we're open for business. We're very landlord friendly,
Mm-hmm.
and I've also got some pretty creative deals I'd love to talk about. So.
Yeah. And I think the property management background you have brings in a lot of value, saying what should be, just as we started, right? Saying there are properties, numbers might pencil out, but you shouldn't be buying it. And there are properties which are like, yeah, the numbers are like right on the edge. You will be somewhat cash flow positive going in, but in the long run, it's going to be much better.
Well, that was the big thing, you could go out to the middle of nowhere and buy something, but you got one HVAC unit that goes out and your
Yeah.
cash flow may be gone for the year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nicer to get into better areas. That's
Hmm.
how I feel like a lot of people especially get started.
Hmm.
But it seems to me and everybody kind of has a niche of what they like, know, and understand. But it seems like the more seasoned investors over time, they'll buy better stuff that will appreciate better.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to be in a place that is doing so well and growing so well. We also have a really good tourist economy, but the backbone of Nashville is actually built on healthcare. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's a cool place, and as we know that's even recession proof. So
Yeah. Healthcare is always a much better industry to be in. Yeah, when you even like it's always required, right?
yeah.
And that is actually new. I didn't know Nashville had a major healthcare presence.
hmm
That's new for me. So
Yeah, a lot of people think it's tourism, but tourism is probably 13 on the list.
yeah,
Healthcare is number one, so we have a lot of hospitals and a lot of medical technology that's here. So it's a great place.
yeah, sweet. So yeah, thanks for explaining a lot about Nashville, about you, and taking time on a busy Saturday morning and coming on the show and like explaining everything. So thanks for coming.
I'm honored to be invited. Thank you so much for the invite.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Main Street Minds. Want to share your journey with our audience? Head over to mainstreetmindspodcast.com/guest to apply.